Hi, welcome to another edition of 1 in 15. I'll let my guest, as usual, introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Matt Barber. I'm the Youth Work Director for Urban Hope. We're a youth charity based in Islington.
Brilliant, that's really nice, Matt. Great to have you here today. Just tell me, as we're doing with this series, one issue that's really kind of dominating your profession or you personally at the moment.
So I think the main thing is, how do we maintain relationships with young people? How do we reimagine? How do we keep them alive?
Yeah,
And what do they look like in a digital and physical world as we transition both? Really.
sure. So I can imagine that, as with other conversations I'm having, COVID, the reality of lockdown, everything's fundamentally changed. Things that you used to do have stopped or have had to be quite quickly on the cuff reimagined. Tell me some examples of how you've had to do things differently in the last couple of months.
So we were heavily based on working in schools and running drop-ins from our church hall,
Yeah,
and we've not allowed young people in. We can't do. We've not been able to do any face-to-face work within the rules. So what we've had to do is go, well, we care about these young people. We love them. How do we maintain some form of contact? So one thing we did is we got young people to sign up for home deliveries of baking ingredients. It's one of the things we do in our youth sessions is cook. So how do we maintain some level of this is youth club, but at home? So they signed up and I drove with a volunteer to their houses to go, here you go. So here's some flour, here's some eggs, here's some chocolate, here's some colouring in. We hope this helps.
yeah,
And we've never visited young people on their doorsteps. So we've never gone to their homes. It was all done with parental consent first. So we've had more contact with parents than we ever have. And we've just then sat outside, socially distanced, just
yeah.
chatting again. How is your life? What is going on? And obviously, one of the first questions is, when can we come back to youth club? You're like,
Yeah.
I have no idea. You tell me.
Well, yes, because it's interesting because I'm an ex-youth worker myself, as you know, and so much youth work is based around those informal, spontaneous discussions that you have in a relaxed setting, and even that. I love that project you described about taking the cookery stuff to people, but that's obviously a little bit more structured. The parents might be listening in. Everything's it's slightly different, surreal even edge to it. How has that actually worked? You say the young people responded positively. Why do you think that is?
Because we've given them something different to do. And I think speaking to one parent, they were like, I've got all the money in the world, not all the money in the world, but I could pay for this. I could get my children all of this stuff. But because it's me giving it to them, they
Yeah,
won't do it. But
yeah,
because you've set a challenge and you've gone, show us your pictures, they still feel like they're part of the youth club. So it's an extension as opposed to a chore, or they see it as you're forcing me to do this as a parent,
sure.
and they get chocolate and cake out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, again, that's one of the benefits sometimes, isn't it, of youth work is that us youth workers, we can get away with things. We can have conversations with young people that parents can't have.
Yeah.
Um, how do you think that this kind of new way of doing things, built out of a crisis, might play forward once lockdown is lifted or the restrictions are changed?
Well, because my youth work is always heavily based on, I want to build a relationship with a young person. I want them to know that they are loved and cared. And for the hour and a half or 2 hours that they're in our building, I try and show them that they are loved. You
Yeah,
are there, you sit and you chat and you get to know them. But when you can't do that, how else do you show someone that you care? And I think if we'd closed down and just gone, that's it, we'll see you in 3-4 months, they wouldn't know whether we still
yeah,
care or love them. So actually just going, here's a free bag of food, knock yourself out. What else can we do? How else can we stay in touch? So from there, some have gone, oh, can we do quizzes on Zoom, or can you send us word searches? Can you? So we're seeing more need, and they're coming back going, we know that you've supported us through this gap,
yeah,
or we know you care. And some we haven't seen at all, and they've just come back for sessions.
yeah,
So they know that we still care and we still value them. But I think the ones that we've done that little bit extra for, I think deep down they know that in a time of crisis, that we're not just going to disappear into ourselves, run away, that we will stand alongside them and go, do
yeah.
you know what, we're still here. Whatever that looks like, we will
Sure.
come to you. We're not afraid of what is going on right now. And I
So
don't
that,
know whether they see an
yeah,
element of we're taking a risk because we shouldn't be delivering. And
yeah,
actually, whether that changes, it's like, it's easy to go, come and sit down and have a listen when you're paid to do it and you're in that space. But when you're not allowed or the rules are a bit grey,
sure.
do you become a little bit more edgy?
And how do you think things might be different? Like, say the lockdown was officially lifted next week, sessions as you used to run them returns to what was normal. How do you think the young people might engage with those sessions now, or even you as youth workers now? How might it be different? What might they rediscover that they've maybe lost over the last couple of months?
That's an interesting, because some young people, we've had some back, so we've done 2 sessions already, and it's like they've never been away.
Yeah,
So to them, it's normal. We're bringing some semblance of reality back into their lives, and that normal. Whether they respect us more is to be seen, I think.
sure.
But actually, I think for me, I value the fact that young people have shown that they care
Yeah,
and they want to come back. Which, I mean, that's what you essentially want as a youth worker: is you want someone, you want young people to come through the door, and to know that you've been closed for 4 months and they
yeah,
still go, do you know what, we miss you, does in some way show that there is a relationship between the youth worker and the young person. I
yeah,
think the superficial relationships, and I think that's the thing, is the young people that we lose along the way will sadden me, is because actually we didn't have a deep enough relationship with you
yeah,
before lockdown. Crisis has hit, you've been on the periphery, and you don't know how much you are valued by us.
yeah,
And it's how is that the importance when we move forward? How do we go to every young person, whether they're in once or in every week,
yeah.
help them realise that this is a safe space for them to feel loved, valued, and who they are.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, come back to, what you said was the issue, was that kind of redefining, reframing, re-understanding relationships and how they work in this context is, what I know from talking to you other times, your sessions can be gloriously chaotic. There can be a good number of volunteers and other youth workers in there, kind of many to many kind of provision, if you like. But
Yeah,
that's changed, hasn't it? You were saying off camera that that it's just been you for large parts of this time. Or you mentioned the volunteer who came round
yeah,
cooking, and so it's been one to one as opposed to many to many or one to many. And that obviously that changes the dynamics of that relationship. The young person and probably the youth worker as well feel more integral to the relationship, more valued as that individual. I find it really interesting. We've talked at other times with other people about this idea of liminality, this kind of idea of going from a place but not yet arriving to the next place. And of course, young people, teenage years, and a lot of senses is a liminal experience. It's that I'm not a child anymore, not yet an adult,
yeah,
and not fully an adult. I'm trying to negotiate who I am in that space. And I suppose as a youth worker, as a youth organisation, you and your organisation have got to renegotiate the terms of your existence. Revalue. So where are some of the things that you thought, well, this is definitely what we do, that you haven't been able to do, and that going forward you think, I don't know if we're going to do that again, or I don't know if we're going to do it the same way again?
So the main one, I mean, before all of this, I've always gone, young people are in school. We need to support young people within school.
Sure.
Doing gangs work for 8 years made me see that if a young person doesn't stay in school, the chances of them entering reckless relationships, criminality, all the other vulnerabilities is really high.
Yeah.
So we were putting a lot into working with year 5, year 6 and transition to go, how do we stand alongside you from your 8 or 9 all the way through till you're 19, knowing that you are valued, you are loved, and there is a trusted adult in your life all the way through. There's one constant, and that is us. And we haven't been in school since March. And my fear is that we're not going to get back into school until January.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really hard to go, well, where do we meet young people? Where do we have those relationships? And how do we support that process?
Yeah.
Because the year 6s now, they've not finished really. school, they've had this vague, weird end without a main celebration point, and they're going to start a secondary school that they may never even visited.
Yeah.
And teachers are more concentrated on, well, I need to get you into school, I need to get you into the system, I need to get you ready to understand the rules that you are now. You've had the light, fluffy primary school.
Yeah.
Well, where's your planner? Where's your pen? Where's your tie? Where's this? Where's that? What is going on with everything else? And who are the people that are going to care for that young person all the way through, which was us. You know, actually, we've got to reimagine how we can work with those schools. We've got a great relationship with two schools, but they're so busy, worried about their staff and the young people that are there. Getting me as a third party throws a spanner in the mix. Like, well, have you been tested? Have you got COVID? Who are you seeing within another bubble? Have you got the appropriate PPE? I can understand that we're not going to be able to work in the same way. So it's like, we have to get, I still believe that working with the school is important, but how that looks.
Yeah. I suppose there's a, you know, that also is dependent on the relationships that you as an organisation had with that school or other schools, isn't it?
Yeah.
If there's a longer standing relationship, then some of those negotiations are a little bit more straightforward, perhaps, or at least the terms of the negotiation is clearer. And I mean, it's fascinating. We've probably got about 3 minutes left, so we just need to be conscious of that. But I mean, it's interesting, and you talk about that important transition stage, particularly between year 6 and year 7. And, you know, certainly in the last sort of maybe decade, you know, there's been a lot of work done in, you know, those kids who, as they enter year 6, they're focused on their SATs, they're focused on that transition into secondary school, and they have residentials, they have, you know, end of term parties, and all of that stuff hasn't happened for those kids. And then likewise, there's the kids in the current year 10s who are going back to year 11, having had a massive break in their GCSE studies. Of course, the year 11s who stopped suddenly their GCSEs effectively without having forethought, and those in sixth form as well, and university. Conscious of time, but, you know, like, where is the place of youth work in helping those people work out what that transition looks like, work out how to get to the next stage without breaking apart in the process?
I mean, that's where I think we need to put our time, is how do you work with a school to go, let me meet with these young people. I'll do it over Zoom. They can come to our venue. How do we support that young person? Because you're not going to have the time as a teacher. How do we stand alongside, and how are we the added support? But the danger is actually youth work at the moment, there's so much to do. So how are you not spread thin as a youth worker going, well, I need to fill a gap right now. Yeah. And that gap could sacrifice going back to school. So I think living in a space where you're like, we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to be patient to allow the space to do what we're called to do. Yeah. And I think that's the difficulty, because there is going to be so many opportunities, I think, that you've got to say, is it either for now or is it a no, because later on there is going to be so much more and so much more value that we can add in other spaces. Yeah. And that's always been one of the tensions of youth work, hasn't it? Of the need has always surpassed the resources that you've had available to you to meet it. Okay, so like coming into the last minute, if there's teachers listening, if there's youth workers listening, what message of hope do you want to give them for going forward? I think I'm excited. There's youth workers banding together to go, actually, we care about young people. We are here. And those of us that haven't been furloughed, I think, have still got a passion to, you know, grow the work even more. And I think those that are coming back are excited to go, young people need us more than ever. Yeah. And we're in the best place to be able to do this work. And I'd say, find a teacher, talk to your local school and go, we might not be able to come in, but we are here waiting, and we value you as teachers as much as we value the young people. So use us. Brilliant. Well, that's perfect. Well, Matt, that's pretty much our time. Thank you so much for your time today. I think there will be a lot of young people, a lot of parents, a lot of carers who are still working out what the impact of this means longer term. But yeah, there's that message of there are people around who care. There are people who are doing their best to help you, whether you're a parent or whether you're a young person. You are loved, and hopefully we'll come out of this into a whole brave new world where it won't be quite as dark as it's felt for the last
couple of months at least. All right, thank you very much for your time, Matt.
Thank you.